Angela, welcome to the How to Be a Redhead
Thank you for
podcast.
having me.
It's our
Yeah, we're
pleasure.
so excited. We're doing great. We have been following you for so long.
So
So
long, like I think
we're
over a
huge
decade. Like
fans.
we know,
I
like
feel like
before
that's a
you even
thing.
even before you even had kids, like we just remember
Yeah.
you in all the different stages of your life since we've been doing How to Be a Redhead. So we're so excited to talk to you.
Well, you know what? It's been lovely for me as well to see your guys' evolution and product now and the podcast, and it's magic. So well done.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Oh,
you so
thank
much.
you. Thank you. I know you've been on our list to have on our podcast for so long. So Adrian and I are just so excited to talk to you and want to get right into it. What was it like for you growing up in Ireland? We know you come from a family of redheads, right?
Yes, yes. So I'm one of four girls, and three of
Mm.
us are redheads. Um,
Wow.
Siobhan in
Wow.
the middle is not a redhead, and my dad is kind of red, and my mum has brown hair. But as you will know, she's obviously a carrier, and my
Hmm.
dad is too. So yeah, like it definitely came, I think, from my dad's side. But there's a couple of rogue redheads on my mum's side as well, and I I think I was totally unaware of its, specialness for a long time because there was three of us. It was probably more special to not have red hair than it was to have it. Um, and then as I got a little bit older, I became aware that it was kind of something. I was never 100% sure. I mean, I thought it was a real gift, but I just remember my mum, kind of in the hairdresser. Not that we regularly went to the hairdresser. She was more of a DIY fringe cutter or bangs, as you'd say. But I remember her kind of saying, maybe we were in with her actually, and she was like, never color your hair. She would almost get the hairstylists to really double down on how fabulous your red hair was. And so I was kind of aware that maybe it was something that needed, protecting from the outer world. So there was
Mm.
something in the background. And then I think probably as I hit teenage years, it became a slightly trickier thing in that I grew up, I was a teenager in the kind of late 90s, early noughties. It was Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and Jessica
Right.
Simpson, a very singular idea of what a beautiful woman was, which was, tanned and blonde. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will have struggled with that, that definition of beauty, if you like. But I definitely think all my friends were really heavily leaning into tan, and they were bleaching their hair, and they were kind of very much lining up into that image. And I felt like I really couldn't do that, and I never dyed my hair because I don't know. I suppose I was looking ahead thinking, I don't know how red roots are going to look with a bleach blonde do. And
Right.
also, I was
Right.
a bit
Yeah.
low maintenance in many ways, but it definitely made me feel quite like other. And I write about it in my book Joyrider, how it was this kind of
Mhm.
weird, heady combination of feeling really special, like an acquired taste, like it would take a very sophisticated hue.
Mm.
My oh, hang on, sorry, somebody just tried to ring me. I cut them off. Um, yeah, it was this kind of quite heady mix of like really loving being a redhead and feeling like it was the most exquisite thing, and it would take someone with really good taste to appreciate a redhead, and then the flip side of that being that, oh my God, this is just, it's not even on the chart, not even it just made me feel quite invisible, oddly.
Oh, and how was it? How was it in Ireland? We love to hear about other countries and how they perceive red hair. And when we talk to
Hmm.
Yeah.
people from London, let's say, which we know that you live now, they say that they had
Yeah.
such extreme bullying, and then they come to the US and they're like, "Oh, wow, it's so normalized and people celebrate you for it." So how is it in Ireland?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of redheads there, but is there bullying growing up?
Do you know, I think weirdly the British thing came from I imagine the fact that most redheads historically here were Irish and Scottish. And so it became
Mm,
an easily identifiable trait that they would
wow.
associate with people who were other and who were outsiders. And so I think that was kind of where the ridiculing and the bullying and the kind of ostracizing of people who looked like us, you know, freckled and red hair. It was just a very easy way to go, she's not us. Um, Whereas in Ireland, it was different because,
Mm.
you know, even if you didn't have red hair, the vast majority of people have skin that's like us. So they have the freckles, or they've got a, you know, family member, or if they got like a tinge of red in their beard or whatever it might be. So no, I never experienced bullying. I never experienced bullying,
That's great.
thankfully. But I know that I did a documentary. One of my first projects in TV was a documentary called Oi Ginger, which was quite controversial at the time, the choosing of that title. And I
Mm.
chose it very specifically because ginger, again, was a term that was never used for me growing up. It wasn't a term that I was really familiar with. And, you know, you were
Mm.
called a redhead, or you were auburn, or you were Tishan, if you wanted to get into the detail. But a ginger was not really a thing, but it was very much a derogatory term, again, originating from Britain, I think. And so I thought actually taking ownership um, of that term kind of took the weight out of it, or reduced it, from being a term of you know, an insult, to being a descriptive term that we could own. So you can't use it as a weapon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. And
great. That's great.
how about your sisters? Did they
Did they ever
experience the same thing as
experience?
you? Just curious with
I
them
think
being
my sisters
redheads?
had a similar experience to me, truthfully. Yeah.
Mm.
And I remember, and it's funny you say about the way you're perceived in the States as opposed to maybe in Britain. But I remember when we would go on holidays, you know, maybe because there was a little pack of four, you know, small girls together, and three of them
Yeah,
redheads. And so we just got a lot of attention, you know, and I think, well, I certainly
yeah.
loved it. Clearly, look at the line of work I've gone into. But it was a kind of, it definitely was something that I think we enjoyed, rather than it being anything that we really wanted to change. And interestingly, you know, none of my sisters ever dyed their hair. They've recently started because, you know, grey hairs. But
Mm.
aside from that, there was never a kind of yeah, a real rush or attempt to change or to fit in. I think it quite quickly became something that, oh, which I found in the documentary, and I found with every redhead I've ever met, even if there was a struggle to get to the point of accepting it, it suddenly becomes like such a huge part of your identity, and how you see yourself, and
Yes.
how you know, make your mark, I suppose, in the world. So there's a big part of me that feels
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, it's, you know, quite unique to our hair color. I don't think most people most people, you know, cling on to their wig so tightly.
So, Angela, we're so excited to talk about your amazing career. You're a long established face at the BBC, regularly um, presenting the One Show, which is fronting popular makeover shows, Your Home Made Perfect and Your Garden Made Perfect, as well as hosting your own hit podcast called Thanks a Million. You've also modeled for Vogue. And so, Adrian and I wanted to start by asking, how did you go from being a stylist to then presenting on TV? And how did that all begin?
Um, so I studied business in university, and then I
Okay.
basically started, you know, set up a small business, selling handbags and jewelry. And then from there, you know, I had always been really into fashion and style, and
Mm,
expression, you know, through what I look like. But I never really knew that a human put those things together and created those looks. The term stylist, I was just not familiar with at all. And so when I started working in this place selling my stuff, I came across a woman there who was doing editorial styling, as well as who had set up this market for small kind of creatives. And so I started to assist her, and then I went into styling, and then I went into personal shopping, and kind of through that, I was invited to go on and speak about fashion on a TV show. I guess like an e-news type show. So I
Right.
was talking about the Oscars and what people had
Yep,
worn
yep.
on the red carpet and stuff like that. And I loved it. Immediately I loved it. It was live, it was exciting and terrifying, and um just loved it. It was immediate for me. I thought, okay, because I had been kind of wanting to get out of fashion. I just felt a bit stuck in it, truthfully. And I thought, I don't want to know if I want to do this forever. And so it was a real light bulb moment for me. And it was from then that I thought, okay, I'm really going to go for this. And so I started to, continue with fashion, because I had to work. But like pitching different ideas and different stories, and essentially producing, although I didn't know what that was at the time, producing loads of little features, and then realized I don't want to just do fashion TV either. And so I pitched the aforementioned documentary Oi Ginger, and that was kind of the beginning of me doing TV outside of me fashion expert on
Okay.
TV. So and then from there I went on to host a number of documentaries all around health and wellness and fads and like wild stuff. And then I did like a celebrity series where I would stay over with different celebrities. I did a Trump documentary on Trump super fans, where I traveled around the States. So lots of different
Oh, wow.
lots
Oh,
of different
wow. Okay.
very random, but always with an interest in, it's always the person, and I think that's
Yeah.
probably why in fashion I
Yeah.
became a bit disillusioned, because I was like, oh, I don't want to be just talking about clothes. I want to talk about the people wearing them, and that was always
Do you, s-
much more
yeah.
interesting to me.
Yeah. And do you feel, just out of curiosity, because obviously we're redheads, do you feel like your red hair has shaped your career in some aspects? Or your career has your red hair has
You've
helped your
definitely
career and
stood
vice
out. Yeah.
versa? Yeah.
Look, I think I remember when I was trying to get a break, and people saying to me, you've got to pitch something that only you can host, because you're unknown. Why would anyone give you a job? There's a
Mm.
million presenters out there. And so all I could think of was, well, I'm a redhead.
Right.
And so it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek, the documentary was tongue-in-cheek. It was exploring gingerism as the last remaining acceptable prejudice. That was how I pitched it in the room. It's how we pitched it in press afterwards. But I guess I really I suppose I really leaned into that. And I think
Hmm.
maybe in a sea of uh, beautiful, polished TV presenters, which is again a similar look that we've become quite used to.
Mm.
Maybe my wild red hair, was memorable, or stood out in more ways than one.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely think so. I mean, like we said, we have been following you for so long. And you briefly mentioned your book called Joyrider, How Gratitude Can Help You Get the Life You Really Want. And Stephanie and I were, when we think of you, we think you're so funny. Like we think that your Instagram is so funny. And then when we knew about your book and gratitude, it kind of gave you so much depth. Like we got to like know you so much more in terms of like who you are as a human. And reviewers say that it's a combination of self-help and a personal memoir. So we know you have a free advice street series, which is really cool. But what advice? And you know how we've talked about this before, Steph and I. But anytime anyone's in therapy, right? They always say, like the therapist will say, like go back to what you would tell your younger self. So we were wondering, what would you tell your younger redhead self about how you got to your point now, like where you are now? What would you say to her?
Oh, I mean, look, I'm big on self-help and self-development, and part of that came from, and I don't think connected to being a redhead. I think it was a different thing. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
very sensitive human, regardless of what I look like. But I think I was always seeking something and some sort of answer and some sort of connection, and so I really devoured books and any sort of resource that would kind of help me, I suppose, feel a bit better, because I think I went through,
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned like my late teens and 20s where I really struggled, truthfully, with growing up. I had an eating disorder for many years, and I think part of writing Joyrider for me was to kind of make sure, I guess, that people weren't completely seduced by the Instagram version of me,
Mm,
or at least that they
Yeah.
understood
Okay.
that the position I hold now and my attitude now, was kind of hard earned, I guess. And I wished, which again was my motivation, I wished that I had a book like that had a kind of accessible, relatable voice that kind of was no bullshit, that was,
mm-hmm.
language that we can all understand and relate to, but having done years of therapy and learning how to love myself, I suppose. So the thing that I would tell my younger self, and that actually I tell myself, most days, or at least the
Mm-hmm.
younger part of myself,
Yeah.
is to, like, you know it's, I suppose, compassion. We talk about self-help a lot and self-care, and
Mm,
usually it pulls up visuals
Yeah.
of sound baths and bubble baths and all, nice, um expensive things. And actually, I think compassion and self-compassion has been the thing that has changed my life the
mm,
most, actually, because that, like, voice that's quite a driving force, which I'm also thankful for. It served me very well in an industry that's
yeah.
hard, but I think it's that kind of sense of perspective, to sit back and acknowledge, and celebrate the small things, rather than always looking forward to the next, and feeling like you're slightly falling short of the mark that you have set, that is constantly moving without you even realizing that you've moved it. So yeah,
Mm,
it's stop, take
yeah.
stock, and enjoy what's right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm so hard on myself. I can tell that you are too. Like I'm naturally so hard on myself. Like, did I do a good job? Did I perform well? And I think sometimes everyone around me, staff, my husband will always be like, be easy on yourself. Be easy on yourself. And I think that the compassion is the word, that's the proper word, is like giving yourself a break. Like you did give it your all and just let it be, instead of harping
Yeah,
on what
and
you
I
did in the
think,
past.
for me, having children, possibly having girls, has kind of meant that I've really, for the first time, because I think we talk a lot about inner child, and if doing therapy or any kind of work, or whatever, you're aware of this idea about,
Mm.
talking to your inner child or reparenting or whatever. But I think the reality of sitting with a little human and remembering that you were that little human,
It's crazy.
helpless and
Yeah.
vulnerable and trying and striving and confused and all of those things, that you
Yeah.
suddenly, like, properly come face to face with that bit of you. And I think if you can allow, because it's quite painful, when you've built this idea of yourself as a
Mm.
super independent kind of
Yeah.
woman who doesn't really need anything or anyone, and then to suddenly be faced with the fact that actually you're like a little human trying to figure it out like the rest. But I think that has been
Yeah.
a real, I've really loved, the reality check, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I feel the same way. So what was your experience like on Strictly Come Dancing,
Yeah,
British's version of Dancing with the Stars?
that's so
We love that.
cool.
We know you have a background in Irish dancing before the show, but it was just too cool for us not to ask you about how it was.
I mean, it's absolutely wild. I know it's a huge show in the States, but it is the biggest show. I mean, there's
It
nothing
is.
really that compares to it over here. I mean, it has kind of 10 million viewers a week. It's a huge, huge
Wow.
show.
Wow.
And so there's a sudden, and I've done telly for years and I've, fronted shows and stuff like that. But this is it's like telly is what I do. It's me in control. And Strictly is me doing something that is completely outside of my comfort zone. And I think I certainly wanted to do something where I felt exposed and vulnerable and terrified, because I realized that for
Mm.
much of my career, particularly in the early stages, I would like delve into doing things that I was not qualified for or equipped to do, and I
Mm.
would trust that I'd figure it out along the way. And I
Yeah.
really um I'm really passionate about that as a message, particularly for women, because I think historically, women wait until they're qualified. And even when they're overqualified, they talk themselves out of a job, and men tend to be
Yeah.
less qualified, and will, talk themselves into a
Hmm.
job, which is fine. So I think for me, I recognized that I'd become quite comfortable. I was, quite happy being competent in all of the roles that I had. And actually, I just wanted to really, really feel the heat a bit, which I absolutely did.
You did.
But I loved
Wow.
it. I loved, yeah, I just loved the routine of it and the madness of it. And actually, back to that kind of inner child thing. In my mind, I had this vision of myself as a kid, kind of, like wanting to perform and take up
Mm,
space and be
Mm.
very theatrical, and I think part of that um was squashed a bit, whether by myself or those around, or it was, and so there was a sense that, oh, this is maybe going to reignite that little part of me, so I mean, I
Yeah.
went for it. I like went head first in, time of my life.
That's
yeah.
that's
Oh, that's so
awesome.
great. I think you have to do that with any new experience. Just do it.
Yeah,
You
and
have
also
to.
just,
Yep,
you
yep,
know,
exactly.
yeah, resilience as well. I think it kind of taught me so much about our ability,
Mm.
to
Mm.
kind of bounce back and pick yourself up and keep going, and our kind of capacity to do hard things, as Glennon Doyle would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
love that podcast too. That's a great one. Yeah. Oh, love it. Love it. Your fashion, you've talked about
My
that.
God.
And we just love your sense of fashion stuff, right? Like since the
Yeah.
beginning of following her on Instagram. How would you describe your current style? We love all the colors you rock. And we know that you
I
have your
do.
own jewelry line.
So
So
yeah,
tell us
style. I
more.
mean, like I said, I've always been into it, and weirdly, then it became a job, and I really lost the passion for it. And
Yeah.
when I first started in
Yeah.
TV,
Mm,
I kind of was really conscious that I
mm,
didn't want to be pigeonholed as the fashion girl, and so I created a uniform for myself where I would go to
Okay.
meetings, and I would like really toned down that part. I would wear jeans and like a man's jumper or a t-shirt, and that was kind of my style, because I thought this is a distraction. People make I like have opinions about you based on what you're wearing, and how suitable you are
What you're
for a
wearing.
particular
Yeah.
project. Exactly. And so I think I kind of in my mind thought I need to be this like weird blank slate. I mean, I still love jeans and a jumper, but I definitely have kind of come back around to falling in love with you're just playing with style
mm,
and fashion and breaking rules. And I think that's
mm.
also probably come from being a redhead, because I remember distinctly
Mm.
being told as a kid that I
Yeah.
couldn't wear this whole array of colors. I couldn't
I know.
wear pink or yellow or
Oh
I know.
red,
man.
or
Mm-hmm.
and the only colors that I could wear were green and blue and turquoise. And it was like anyone who told me I couldn't do something and I had to do something, I just went the opposite direction. And so I've always really kicked against that idea that I had to restrict my my style or the things that I'm drawn to because of my hair color or anything else. So yeah, I do like a bit of color. I think it's good for the soul as well, you know. And then my jewelry brand, like I mentioned, I started in business. It was always a dream of mine to kind of build something that I would be able to, you know, work with people on. And again, purely about self-expression. It's called frkl, which is obviously a nod to our lovely colouring.
Love the name.
And
Freckles.
and it's kind of about really leaning in and celebrating the things that are unique to you and enjoying those and kind of wearing them, you know, very much front and center. And you know, then there's a kind of sense that for me, look, when I look at the through line of all the things I've done, it's about connection, you know. So connection with the self or connection with people that I interview, no matter what setting that is, whether it's in an industrial estate with, you know, I did a show called Robot Wars, which is this like mad cult show on the BBC, which people were like, what are you talking about? Or then Your Homemade Perfect, as you mentioned, which I think is on Hulu over there. I often get messages from people in the States.
I think it is.
But yeah, it is that kind of idea of connection. And so with frkl, we basically created like a bunch of base pieces where there's charms that you can connect to the necklaces that then come off the necklaces, go straight on the earrings, go straight on bracelets. So you can mix and match and play around and kind of send, you know, a little memento around the world to somebody. So it just very heartfelt, a lot of fun. It's a really, you know, bold kind of conversation pieces, because for me, you know, that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah,
beautiful.
I absolutely
Beautiful.
love
It
that.
It looks so nice.
And I love gold. So when I was on the website,
Oh, I love gold.
I
Yeah,
just can't
we
wear
do have silver. It was our gold is better for us, but I do like, this is a mixed metal, which is like a huge trend, but also means that you can, you know, dabble in both.
Redheads, have you heard?
We aired on ABC's Shark Tank, episode 14, season 15. We are busy developing products and continuing to grow this incredible redhead lifestyle brand.
Check out our mascara and eyebrow products in red hot shades, hair care, merch, lifestyle items, and so much more. Redheads, we can now rejoice.
Finally, there are products for us.
Use code podcast to get 15% off your next purchase. Shop at shop.howtobearedhead.com.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And talking about makeup, you rock a pale girl makeup, and it's absolutely beautiful. Like right now, you're glowing. What's some advice you can give for other redheads who are just starting out, maybe doing their makeup?
So I mean, obviously SPF.
Yeah,
I know that's not technically makeup,
I know.
but I think it took me a really long time. I'm like, guys, we just got to wear it every day, okay? Even if it's cloudy, you're wearing SPF. But there's two right beside me, and I'm in an office, not a bathroom. But anyway, yeah, I think, look, it's about the shade, isn't it? For me, I like, it was really hard historically to get a decent shade to work for, because I think sometimes people look at you and think, oh, you're either paler than you are, or you're not as pale as you read because of freckles. So I think at a counter, it can be really tricky for people to match you. They make presumptions about whether you're pink or you're olive tone underneath your shade, whatever. So I think like my barometer of whether a makeup is right is if I can put it on my face in the dark and do my makeup without a mirror and come out and nobody knows the difference. So I use makeup sparingly and on like my red patches and spots rather than a full mask. Like I don't want to see your makeup. I want it to be eaten by your face. That's my ideal situation. So I think, like, look after your skin, and then makeup is just, you know, goes on top. But like, I had really bad acne as a teenager.
You did.
And so, you know, I was like heavily invested in a full coverage foundation for confidence. So but I think if you look after your skin, it's less of a thing. Not that I didn't look after my skin and that acne was a result of that, but I mean, yeah, I try to wear less foundation, but I love a poppy lip and I love a decent brow. And I was just thinking when I was getting ready, I was like, I put like a teeny lick of, you know, brown shadow on, but no mascara, controversial. And I thought, I actually sometimes think, unless I'm going with the full face of makeup, a full lash on my colouring can look like a bit of an assault. So I think I've become much more comfortable with my bare naked lashes.
Oh,
Same here.
I
I
love
really
that.
have.
We recently just did a photo shoot. Yeah, Steph, we just recently did a photo shoot, and the girl showed up without without a mascara on
Mascara.
because we were going to have makeup there. And then I thought, oh, they look so good without mascara. I mean, redheads should rock it. You know, obviously, a lot of us redheads have like a fascination with mascara. You know, I certainly went through that stage where you're just like, oh my gosh, I finally have lashes, because it just blows your whole face up, you know? Yeah. Yeah, that's so awesome. So, you have 2 children. You said one of them's strawberry blonde, but and Steph is a mom of 2 also, but so Steph, this might be more for
No, they're not. No, my son is brown. My husband has brown hair, and then my daughter, same thing. I think she's gonna be like a brown, but it's funny how they were both born with brown hair and then they turned blonde. Like my son was really, really blonde between like 1 and 2. And then after he turned 2, it started getting darker. So right now my daughter's only 15 months. So she's at that, like, it's blonde, but I think it's going to turn brown. And both of them were born with such dark hair that we shared this on the podcast. But when I had my daughter and she had her head was like sticking out being born, my OB said, not a ginger. And it was like a big laugh in the whole room. But I thought maybe she would have red hair just because my husband's grandmother was a redhead. And obviously we have the redhead gene in our family, but I think it proves that my husband maybe doesn't have the redhead gene, which is fine. You know, my kids. Yeah. Yeah. My daughter, it looks like she tans more than my son. So I'm interested to see what complexion they get. But your daughter, so your oldest has strawberry. How about your youngest?
So my oldest has kind of strawberry. Now she really identifies as a redhead. She's like, I have red hair. She'll like she's and a lot of people would say, oh, she's quite blonde, isn't she? I'm a redhead. She's definitely a redhead. So the youngest one is a little more is darker. She's like has brown hair with like little blondie tips. It may go a little bit lighter, but we're not 100% sure. But she definitely has darker skin, whereas Ruby has my skin for sure.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting how genetics work.
He said, my son, he has brown hair, like, we'll just have to suffer on.
I know. Well, I was really, I know. It's not, with my son, I was like, okay, it's probably going to, take after my husband. And then with my daughter, I was like, oh my God, like a little redhead.
Well, you want to get one, right?
So amazing. Yeah, and I didn't. And we're having our 2, and that's it. So we'll see. Maybe when they get older, if they were to have children, maybe they'll have redheaded kids if they choose to have children. I don't know. So we'll see. But yeah, the redhead gene is so crazy because it can skip generations, and you never know if you're going to get a redheaded kid.
You need to be a carrier or you need to be a redhead or a carrier in order to produce redhead. Or this is a fact that I still find myself Googling, even though I confirm it every time. 2 redheads together can only make a redhead child.
I know. Isn't that wild?
You're like, do you have a redhead? Have you ever been with a redhead? Sorry.
So this is so funny. My husband of 12 years is a redhead.
He's a redhead.
Is a redhead.
Shut up.
Is a redhead. Yeah. But like he's not, I want to say he's like He's like, there's
Oh,
really
aren't
good
we
redhead,
all?
you know, like there's
Yeah.
something. I know. But you know, like I would feel like it would be when I say that, I mean, it's because his hair color looks so good. I think with my hair color, like it's not like we have matching hair. Do you know what I
And
mean?
his hair
So, like,
color,
he's a good
his
redhead
hair
for me.
yeah, and his hair color isn't super vibrant, Adrian. It's not like Ed Sheeran, like
No, it's
crazy red.
like yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
The
like a
Harry
sandy,
red.
yeah, it's like a sandy color. Even
Yes.
less than that. Even
Okay.
less than Prince Harry. Yeah. Yeah.
But like you can
So
do a
it's like
whole range of
yeah,
baby
and
products when all the little baby redheads pop out.
he actually, when we first met, he was like, I'm a redhead too. That was like and I was like, oh, cool. And I never thought that I would be interested in someone with red hair because, you know, it's like so rare and I don't know. But yeah, we just have like a connection. So I always tell him, even if you were purple, I would marry you. You know, it doesn't matter. But I have to say, tell me, Angela, I don't know how long you've been
10
married,
years
but you know
last
how
week.
like you end up congrats. That's
Wow.
awesome. That's awesome. But you know how like they say that couples
We
start
look
looking
nothing
alike?
alike.
Like your style,
You know?
like I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
neither
They
do
say
my
Nothing.
husband and I.
Nothing. We're chalk and cheese in terms of like we look exactly opposite. We look nothing alike. Our kids are like a mashup of the two, which is quite a spicy combo. And no, our style is very, very, very different. Our personalities
Yeah,
very
Angela, we're
different.
the
I would say
same.
our values are aligned, but like apart from that, no, nothing.
Yeah, no, I find
wow.
that
Wow.
my
Well,
husband
I
and
know
I
I read
are the same. Sorry.
yeah, and
Adrian,
I had read that like once you my
yes.
parents were talking about it because they've been like our parents because they've been married almost 40
wow.
years and they feel like sometimes like you start to like have the same mannerisms after all those years of being together. Do you know what I mean? Like you start to like you know what the other person's going to say, you know, so then people have asked our parents if they look nothing alike. Like they look nothing alike.
But isn't that a
they've been
thing on
together.
TikTok, like couples who look together, couples, siblings are coupled. It's like a thing.
Yeah. Oh, I hate that. I hate that. I find it so gross.
I know,
When someone
no,
says that about my husband, I'm like, oh, don't say that.
I thought it was so funny because my husband started taking up running outside. So yesterday, it's been so hot here, Angela. We're on the East Coast and it's like humidity's like 90 something percent. It's like 95 degrees out. And he's like, I'm gonna go for a run. And then he leaves and I'm like, I wonder if he put sunscreen on. So he's outside for like an hour. He comes back, obviously from running, he's all red. But last night after showering and you know, like you've been in the sun for like X amount of time and then your sunburn or tan like sinks in. He got so tan and we're sitting on the couch because we've also, you know, it's summertime. So we're sitting on the couch last night and I was like, how different do we look like right now? I am so pale and you're over here looking like you just like went to some exotic Caribbean island to the beach.
Been literally 30 minutes in the sunshine. So mine is exactly the same as that. And we come back from Holland. He is like so tanned and so exotic looking.
Yes.
And like the hotter the destination, the more likely I am to be head to toe covered, a cap on, an umbrella, the full shebang. So I come back usually paler from holidays than when I've got and it's like, were you guys on holidays together? Yeah, we were. Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Yeah. I love that. And I wanted to ask, just curious, do you, because we know that you do, which I think it's hilarious, you're on the street where you give advice, but when you see another redhead, do you kind of, you acknowledge another redhead? I always say it's like a secret club.
100%.
You wink at them.
It's a secret club. I'm like, hey girl. And actually I was in a cafe today earlier on and I was, there was a girl there and she was like, hey, as I was leaving. Now, obviously, I don't know if that's purely because I'm a redhead or because she saw me on telly. I'm not 100% sure. But I do know that after I did Strictly, I I never wore fake tan on Strictly, and you'll know from Come Dancing
Mhm.
that like
Mhm.
it's a
Mhm.
whole
Mhm.
situation, and
Mhm.
you know they
Mhm.
go into a tanning booth, and
Yeah,
it's kind of a
yeah.
prerequisite for the show. You go on and you get into the like Latin ballroom world, which is head to toe tan. And I haven't worn fake tan for many years, and I've spent like most of my career on telly, all of it actually, on TV, with women saying to me, "Oh my God, thank you for doing it for us pale girls." And it was quite a weirdly like confrontational thing to do back then, to not wear tan and not do the whole
Yeah.
thing. And so
Yeah.
when I came to do Strictly, they were like, "Are you going to
Yeah.
tan?" And I said, "No."
Yeah.
Which was
Good.
like a bit shocking, because
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
milky
Good.
legs out there for all the world to see. But it's had such a gorgeous effect in that I get messages from people, you know, who have said, "Oh, I haven't ever worn my legs, you know, without tan or tights for 40 years, and I've finally felt confident enough to get them out." Or their kids who have kind of gone, "Oh my God, if they're getting, you know, bullied or um getting shit for being a redhead in school, they're like, "Look at this girl, she's a redhead."
Yeah.
So I think, yeah,
You're so
it's,
inspiring.
yeah, I think I like, so there is that, like, you know, you're in the club. And it's funny, I was chatting recently about, you know, fake redheads, which I know you'll sometimes introduce people and you're like, "She's a real redhead." I'm
Yeah.
like, I love that. Do you actually say she's a fake
Yeah.
redhead? um, but
We
I
say,
think
yeah,
sometimes,
we say
go
chosen.
on,
Chosen
a
redhead.
We say
chosen, okay,
chosen
fake
redhead.
sounds a bit, yeah, okay, fine, chosen redhead. But like the thing is, for me, a chosen redhead, okay, like Emma Stone. She's doing a bit of heavy lifting for the
Yeah,
crew. I'll give her that. But
Yeah.
like, to
she
my
is.
mind,
Yeah.
people who are not like real redheads have not had those awkward teenage moments, have not had the kind of,
I
"Did you get
know.
bullied? Did you?" They
I
haven't
know.
endured like the hard stuff to really deserve all of the good stuff. So I
Right.
have very mixed opinions about
Yeah,
chosen
Right.
redheads.
well, uh, and I have a question about, well, I guess chosen fake makes me think of, as you've gotten, we like to say, instead of age, matured in life,
Hair
has
color,
your changed at all?
yeah, it's lost a bit of its
Mm.
punch, I would say.
Mm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
now, you know, I definitely enhance it, because I'm like, there's no way I'm letting go of my red hair. And I know a lot of redheads will kind of, now that said, I'm 42. Am I 41 or 42? 41. Oh my God, I just aged myself. Did I? Yeah, I'm 41. Sorry. Am I 41 or 42? I'm 41. Sorry.
It's all the
Exactly.
same.
I have some grey hairs. And I guess some people will go, "Oh, I'm going to lighten it so that the contrast is kind of less obvious." No, I'm going
Mm.
down with a fight.
Yeah, same.
I,
Adrian and
I
I
am
talked
too. I
about
am
it.
too.
I am too.
I am not going white. I just am. I'm a redhead. That's just who I'm gonna be. That's it.
Like
That's it.
flame haired. I'm going to get more obnoxiously red the older I get.
Yeah,
Same. Same. I'm
same.
just gonna. I want to be bold. I want to be bold to the end. um. So Angela, I can't tell you how amazing it is to like meet you. I
Yeah.
know
Oh
we're
my
through a
God.
screen, but it's so cool to just talk to you and meet you. Can you tell us what's next for you and what we can look forward to seeing from you? I know
Yeah,
you
well,
do
I've
so
just
much.
started a radio show actually, which I'm doing every weekend. I've taken over from, I don't know whether you guys know a
Cool.
guy called Graham Norton, who's like one of
Yeah.
my broadcast heroes.
Yeah.
And so I've
Wow.
taken over,
That's
yeah, his slot,
amazing.
which is
Love him.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Um, and then yeah, lots of TV. Freckle is trucking on, and we're very excited with what's to come there. I've got another book that I need to write, but haven't quite gotten around to. Yeah, and I guess harassing people unsolicited on the streets via Instagram.
Yeah.
I love that. Those videos are hilarious.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and for your time. And we can't wait to see all of your Instagrams. We love it.